Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Today we are going to take a closer look at some favorite semiconductors. My number one semiconductor company is going to be first Nvidia. There are some reports of, or some more kind of news with the regulations that the company recently saw with their AI chips, and also the loss of a GPU customer as they are transforming to a CPU player to some extent. I'll explain a little bit more in this episode. Next, we're going to take a closer look at AMD. The stock is doing amazing, up almost 8%, as the company did report some okay earnings. I did a kind of video on them earlier, but there are some kind of information that they shared about their upcoming MI300 chip. The final company is going to be Intel, and like I mentioned, that's going to go more with Nvidia, where some of they're getting some customers as there is too much GPU shortage that is maybe forcing some AI customers to start to think about the CPU space. So all that in today's episode and more.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for their subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
So the first thing I want to take a closer look at is reports that Nvidia rushes their GeForce RTX 4090 shipments to China before US exports ban takes effect on November 17th. So kind of let's rewind a little bit. We did hear on October 17th, I believe it was like October 17th, that the United States was kind of creating a form of a ban for some more of Nvidia's chips to China. For example, the A100, the A800, the H100, the H800, and even a lot of the AD102 chipset GPUs that are the chipset that goes into the RTX 4090, the L40, and the L40S. And normally when these kind of export restrictions go into place, they take about a month before kind of going into effect. But yes, about a week ago on October 23rd, Nvidia announced that some of those were actually going to affect immediately, and that was actually only going to last for the A100, the A800, the H100, the H800, and L40S. But there were no discussions here of the RTX 4090. And when I read this, I kind of noticed that, but in my back of my mind, I guess I thought that the company didn't just want to list everything, they just wanted to list the big players there. But it does seem like the RTX 4090 did not go to effect immediately, and it's going with the traditional route of having that ban happen in 30 days. So right now, Nvidia is rushing the GeForce RTX 4090 shipments to China before those kind of export bans take in place. I do believe a big reason for this is the 4090. Even though it's a consumer gaming GPU, it's such a high-tier GPU in the consumer space that it can be used for a lot of AI solutions, and a lot of kind of deep learning laptops and desktops, and maybe even small data centers to some extent, or small data servers to what I mean. Here we can see, for example, Lambda AI, which is a huge kind of AI hardware provider. You can kind of buy this workstation that includes 2x 4090s. They also have what they call their scalar servers, which are small servers. And these small servers, they do mention, can even be packed with chips like the A6000, the A5000, and these all have the same chipset as Nvidia's RTX 4090. So I do believe right now a lot of they can't sell the A100, they can't sell the A800, the H100, or the H800, but because the AI market is so strong, I do believe they are trying to kind of get all those shipments of the RTX 4090 to China at the moment. So pretty interesting there. I don't believe this is a make or break for the stock, in my opinion. But the company, this is a great way for them to kind of get rid of some inventory, especially if we are still maybe seeing kind of a weakness in the gaming market. It's a great way to get rid of those gaming graphics cards, as there is a demand elsewhere. The second thing I want to take a closer look at here in Nvidia, and this is going to deal with Intel. There are reports that Nvidia client switches to Intel CPUs due to GPU shortage and price hikes. And before we go any further, we just hit 28,500 subs on this channel. My goal is to hit 30,000 by the end of the year. So if you haven't, make sure to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button. I appreciate all the support. I also do have weekly exclusive videos on the semiconductor market. My next one is going to be a deep dive on AMD coming this weekend. So make sure to join to learn more. Special offer at fool.com/Jose. Free newsletter at josenajarro.substack.com. And free semiconductor news at semiconductorwatch.com. I think this article adds a little bit more fear. So obviously GPU shortage in forms of Nvidia is still out there. But I do believe if this client really needed the GPU power or needed the GPU strength, there's other competitors in the space. There's AMD's MI250, there's Intel's Gaudi 2 accelerators as well. So in my opinion, for this customer to be changing because of GPU shortages and price hikes, it means that they know that they don't necessarily need that kind of computational power. And at the end of the day, CPUs are still great for certain AI workloads. We've actually talked about it in this channel numerous months ago on June, I believe, when we read this article from IEEE Spectrum, that the case of running AI on CPUs isn't dead. And they kind of even showcase a few large language models that were run and trained perfectly using Intel Xeon's 4th generation processor. A big AI company, Hugging Face, has actually made plenty of documents starting from May 16th of 2023 that large language models obviously can do really well with things with GPU accelerators, but it is not impossible, and it's pretty much optimized to also be done with Intel CPUs. And they do mention that these are probably meant, they kind of showcase a solution where Intel CPU was actually used to kind of pre-train a lot of different models. And that's why I think it's a little bit more important to know about what the customer is actually using. Just because you're doing something in the AI market doesn't necessarily mean you need a GPU. You can be perfectly fine with a CPU data center, and that's what a lot of companies have done in the past. So I do believe that kind of article adds a little bit more fear to the GPU market in the AI market. But right now, there's still such a huge demand for GPUs that I don't believe Nvidia investors should worry should worry about it. We did hear from Intel's most recent earnings, though, that while the industry has seen some wallet share shift between CPUs and accelerators over the last several quarters, as well as some inventory burn in the server market, they do see signs of normalization as they enter in Q4 in forms of CPU spending. So again, maybe earlier on there probably was this huge hype of GPUs and everybody thought they needed a GPU, but Intel is actually going really well and kind of showcasing to maybe some of their customers that, hey, you will be fine with maybe just a CPU server to some extent, even if you're doing very, very small AI workloads. So it does seem like that kind of marketing is working, and we are kind of seeing a shift back into the CPU space, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's 100% bad for the GPU market. There's still just such a huge demand for that space, and supply can't keep up with the demand. Now, the final thing I want to take a closer look at is AMD. They just reported earnings, and they do expect that for the data center GPU to be approximately $400 million in the fourth quarter and to exceed over $2 billion in 2024 as revenue ramps throughout the year for their MI300. And they do believe that the MI300 is going to be the fastest product to ramp to $1 billion in sales in AMD history. They're obviously going to explain a little bit more during their December AI event. And I do believe this AI event is also going to be more of a data center event as well. But overall, it just kind of showcased that even if you are second or third place here in this space, $2 billion is good, but remember, Nvidia in their most recent quarter did $11 billion in one quarter. So we can see AMD, even being the second, even being this GPU shortage, they still are limited to, I guess, things like advanced packaging and manufacturing as well in the advanced packaging. But but $2 billion is crumbs. And at the end of the day, this is something that I've actually been bullish about AMD. I do believe even the crumbs for AMD are great news for their financials, and that's why we do see the stock being up over 7.5% at the moment. So Nvidia shareholders, we do have earnings next month. Obviously, stay tuned to this channel. Make sure to hit the thumbs up. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, as we are going to be doing a deeper dive here. So take care, have a good day, and see you next time.